All right, welcome to Two Fat Dads, the exciting podcast where we learn all about Steve and Tony.
Oh, that is exciting.
It's very exciting. Have you been, I actually stopped watching the numbers because, we've just reached that level of fame. Who cares about the numbers, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that any day I expect thousands upon thousands of dollars to just start showing up in my checking account.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Sprite.
Sprite, that's good soda. I prefer Sprite Zero.
Oh, yes.
But
I'm going to say that we're sponsored by Sprite this podcast because last podcast you were so thirsty for Bobby.
Yeah.
That's
How's Bobby doing?
She's great. She
recover from our.
She got lots of positive reviews. What's funny is some of the guys we talked about, some of her past dates contacted her.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, one did. I think one did. Yes.
Well, one and some is a huge difference.
That's true, but I do remember one. There might have been more. She'll have to correct me.
And said, Bobby, I respect you. And
who said that?
I respect you more. I don't know. What did the guy say?
Oh, I think it was the guy that said that he couldn't keep up with her lifestyle, and that was the one that contacted her. And I don't even know what he said.
Oh,
I just kind of felt bad, but it did feel like you weren't enjoying the podcast because you haven't talked to a single girl in like 30 years.
That's what it was. No, I will tell you exactly what was going on. I was not pleased with the way I kept feeling like I was slipping almost into like therapy mode, which that might just be bull. You know what I mean? That might just be that. Might just be my own perception.
Can you really switch it off though?
Well, I feel like it's not good for this, what we're doing here.
No, I think people actually would love it. No, I really think that, I was kind of joking and I was going to make a joke, and it's one of those things where you think about after the podcast, like, oh man, I should have said this, like this whole thing has been a ruse for you. Like I've been just playing this practical joke on you, this elaborate prank that I was just going to get all my single friends on and have you figure them out and why.
Well, I've got Bobby figured out.
You have her figured out?
Next.
Oh,
well, I mean,
so this is what we do. Like, so then it's the hook, right, of the podcast where we have someone on, and then the following episode, you explain what's wrong with them.
Well, okay, I'm not saying anything's wrong with Bobby.
No, that was the wrong word. Yes.
I actually really liked Bobby. And
you told me I should date Bobby.
I was curious as to what was wrong with you.
With me, right.
With you, not with her.
Right. There's lots wrong with me. We have tons of time to figure out what's wrong with me.
No, the thing about Bobby was that I think that the perception I got was that, she has the feeling like people, especially men, but they don't really understand her, and maybe they don't, at least from her perspective, they don't feel all that motivated to understand her, but she's pretty awesome. So like she should be somebody that a guy would want to get to know.
I agree.
So she has this habit. It's kind of self-deprecating, and I just notice it a lot. Women tend to like apologize a lot about what they say, and they have a tendency to like laugh when they say something really serious, and they have it, or like they'll say something serious and then they'll immediately say, no, not really. I don't remember her doing that particular, but it's all kind of the same.
Sure. Same realm.
Family of behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of undermining, like it sort of undermines how seriously people take what you say.
Right.
And again, I really enjoyed getting to know her. And I'll admit that I felt less comfortable with the interview part, but again, I was not pleased with my own sense of mean, I didn't want to analyze her.
Right.
I don't think people would like me doing that. That seems like that would be very unappealing.
Yeah, I think Bobby would in particular, but you're right. I get it. I always enjoy your criticism towards me. It's always fantastic. Spot on.
Okay. Thank you.
I think there's people who focus on change and evolution and growing, and there's people that don't.
Sure.
And I think she is one that focuses on growth, so I think she would enjoy it.
Well, I'd like to have her back on and kind of talk a little bit, like, now that we've gotten to know each other. I don't think it's good to go in cold. Just not knowing really anything about her. Well, like, I thought the reason that you and Charlotte and I had so much chemistry was because we knew each other.
Yeah, so eventually you're gonna, a lot of the people that have asked me to come on have been people that you don't know.
Right.
So it's gonna be interesting. So, part of it's like we've been trying to figure out what exactly are we doing,
right,
with this podcast. And I always get asked, well, what's your podcast about? And I'm like, I mean, nothing really.
We're the Seinfeld of
podcast. Yes. And speaking of, like, do you want to kind of talk about branching out from YouTube?
Yeah. So here's what I did. I recorded just a couple of episodes of a really short, like 5 to 10 minutes of book reviews. I called it Lonely Guy with a Book.
And you know what happened was, I mean, I don't know if you know this, you gave it to me to upload.
Oh, yes. Okay. But no. I did that on purpose. I took it away.
Right. You gave it to me to upload. And then every time I tried, I just kept falling asleep through the middle of it. I just could not. And then I was like, you know what?
What happened is
Steve, because I have, sleep issues.
I removed it from YouTube because I didn't want it to mess up our stats. And I'm just talking about, like, it was,
bring all the stats down.
Well, the podcasts are all that you and I do are an hour long, and my book review is 5 minutes long.
Oh, that reminds me. I didn't check when we started recording, but whatever. Let's keep going.
Anyway, so what I did is I got an RSS feed, which my son was shocked, and he said that it was totally outdated, but this is what you got to do for podcasts.
Oh, and the audio part.
Yeah. And so what I did is I for this Lonely Guy with a Book podcast, I got myself onto Stitcher and Apple,
Spotify,
Google Podcasts, Spotify, and a couple others.
I love Spotify.
So I've done this now. So now I'll go in and I want to do that with this podcast. Same thing. Now that I know how to do it, it's super easy.
Oh, sweet.
And
so you just need my audios that I have.
Yeah, I just need the audio. Well, not even the audio, but like the file, because it can be a video podcast.
Well, I have both. It splits it. Zoom splits it into a video, audio, and just an audio.
Well, I think we want it to be video audio.
Okay.
So I'll do that. And then, like I said, so within a few days, because I had got a little bit of feedback from a couple of people that the problem with it being on YouTube is that, when you watch it on YouTube and then you go off of YouTube, then it's off. And
yeah.
So,
it's one of those things I don't think about because I have YouTube Premium because I'm fancy.
Wow.
Like that.
You are the only person in the world with YouTube Premium.
Stop it. That is not true.
That's totally true.
Well, I also get YouTube Music, and that's what I stream with. I love YouTube Music.
Yeah, so do actually. I love. Okay, so anyway, so then people can, whatever platform they typically listen to podcasts on, they'll be able to listen to ours.
Perfect.
They will fall in love with Lonely Guy with a Book. a 5 to 10 minute spoiler free podcast. And I'm going to branch out. I'm going to also do reviews of comic books.
Really?
Yes, I love comics.
You know what? One of my good friends from high school owns 2 comic book stores. You should totally hook up with him and like do this.
I'll like do it together.
Yeah, I want to join too. Because I'm clean like that.
We also had okay. Well, we did have as we were texting back and forth, we thought about what about a podcast? You can never have too many. I think that's
you can never have too many
about this. But what about a podcast where we reviewed movie trailers?
We've got to be the first, right?
And well, certainly
that was
the
a
fattest.
Great trailer, huh?
Certainly the fattest.
Well, okay, we can't say 2 thumbs up. So what would be our rating system?
2 cupcakes. I don't know. No,
I give this half a cupcake.
I have got to tell you something that happened to me yesterday.
Please tell me.
Now,
it's probably,
of course, the MO, the modus operandi of our podcast. I know what MO means. Idea of 2 fat dads.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been trying to eat healthier, and I have actually lost 20 pounds, which makes me still very fat. But yesterday I was in the temple, my son Brett, going through.
Oh my goodness, how did I forget about that?
Yes, going through for the first time is very special.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one part where you're in one room and they say, okay, we're going to go in this other room now. And it was just really cool. And if you don't know anything about the Mormon temple, I would just suggest getting baptized.
It's the easiest way.
That's the fastest way to find out anything. But so
that's what every Chevy dealer says. If you want to know about Chevys, just buy one.
Just buy one. So anyway, so I'm walking from one room to another. And again, I've lost about 20 pounds. And my pants fell down.
No.
And it lasted about 2 seconds when I looked down and I realized that had happened. And I pulled them up.
I swear that is the bridge to being old. Like every old guy has to cross, right?
Well, I guess their pants down. But everybody was kind of being quiet and just looking ahead. And I don't even know if anybody noticed. Oh, Charlotte. Okay, Charlotte's behind me. She said she did notice.
Of course.
She must have been watching me.
I mean, that's what you do as a couple. You're constantly making sure your pants are up.
Yes, that's a big part. But that was, so then I go and I sit down and I'm adjusting them. They were fine the rest of the time, but I thought the fact that I'm still here, I haven't run off, I'm not crying, I don't even really care that much. None of that speaks well of me. Like, the fact that I have so little pride
that
left,
this is the part of your life.
The fact that I have so little pride left in how I look and how people think about me, that my pants can drop in the middle of a sacred building, in the middle of a sacred ordinance, and I'm just like, screw that. That is a issue. And I feel like that losing 20 pounds, while good, has obviously not addressed that at all.
You have to adjust the pants. Yes. You know what I've discovered? Like, it's so weird that I've felt like I've only discovered this in the last year or two, is like elastic. Like they've started making stretchy jeans, everything's stretchy.
Is that what I'm going to have to do?
It's great though. Like I felt
I know I'm getting suspenders for my pants.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I've kept thinking like I didn't want to be that guy that wore suspenders, but really think about how comfortable they are. They've got to be comfortable. I wear them with my
suit and they're very comfortable.
They're very comfortable. I don't know. Let's just do it. Maybe
on a scale from 1 to 10, how bad is it that my pants dropped and nobody cared? That has to be terrible, right?
Oh, what's so funny?
Like if I was gorgeous, everybody would be like, "Oh my gosh, I almost got to see his peen." It would be very exciting.
Well, it's so funny that this happened, because, and it's now that we've been doing the podcast, I'm thinking about the podcast. I'm thinking about things that can be brought up, right? And I thought about the other day that you and I used to, okay, now this is completely changed. I didn't want to bring it up because I thought, no, I can't bring it up because a lot of things have changed. And it actually has to do a lot more with the Me Too movement, I think, in my opinion. And I think it's just in general, I think it's a good idea not to do this.
Okay.
We had asked the question, how old do we have to be until we can call a younger lady honey or sweetie?
Oh, yes.
Because it really is a sign that you're not a threat to them at all, right?
No, and some of the little girls I work with, the 3 to 6 year olds, I'll call them honey.
Oh, well, yeah, that's different, right?
Yeah, but that's a 40 point under the point I'm making is that's a 40-year difference.
It's a 40-year difference. Yeah, right. They don't think twice about it. What's funny is the other day I was at a restaurant and I'd say she was in her early 30s. She called me sweetheart. But women can do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I love it.
Yeah, it's so funny. Women get away with so much.
Oh, yeah. They're so privileged.
They're extremely privileged.
I don't know. That for whatever reason, that reminds me. I read this article and it was a guy who's a member of the church. It was a real douchebag. And he was talking about how women complain because they don't get the priesthood, but they get those super comfortable seats in the mother's lounge for when they're nursing. I'm like, you're an
what
idiot.
A trade-off.
Yeah, that's it. You're going to have this really comfortable seat for a year, but we're going to be in charge of all the major decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good trade-off, I'd say.
Yeah, the women are the big winner. Boy, that's a sneaky. When am I going to get my? In fact, right at the end, he said, "When do I get my comfortable chair?"
Oh, you cut out a bit, but I did hear what you said. Maybe your microphone is cutting out because of how voluminous your voice is.
Well, maybe I'll whisper. I'll try to be more NPR.
Yeah, a little more sexy.
No, but he said, when am I going to get my comfortable chairs? That's how he ended it. And I just thought that is pure delusion right there.
Oh boy.
Hey, can you,
Steve? Oh, we have action in the background.
Oh, the air conditioner is making noise, and so I'm turning it down. Maybe that'll help.
What do you want to talk about next? Because I might bring up a few things. Do you have anything?
Well, now I'm thinking I don't have anything else. I felt
no, I've got a ton to talk about, man.
I felt like oh, go ahead.
I've had a rough couple of weeks, to be honest. It's been tough. It's been a tough couple of weeks. And a lot of it, right? So a lot of people really don't understand my industry, and that was so apparent when I told you and a couple other people an incident I had at work. It was so apparent.
I thought I tried to be empathetic.
No, you were. But your first reaction was like, well, just hide it. Just don't tell people you did it. And I'm like, that doesn't work. So, I mean, it's just, I'm going to beat myself up for a while over this because the interesting thing about my job is it's one of those, I think I've said this before. If I went to explain what I do on a daily basis, it'd fill up 3 pages, and it's super boring, put the whole audience to sleep by the time I was done.
I'm actually almost asleep right now.
I know it's really not that exciting, but I have one of those jobs where it's simple yet complex. And there's some complexity to it that can be overwhelming and stressful and filled with anxiety. And then there's just really easy aspects to the job, like opening a valve. And that is what I didn't do. I forgot to open a valve, and it overpressured the whole pipeline. And it just pissed me off. That's what I'm getting at. It's like, we kind of talk about getting older. And so it sucks getting older and the signs of getting older, because I had to go open up 2 different tanks because of the size of the pipeline receipt. Opened up one just fine, completely forgot to do the other one. And I've been like going over it over and over and over again. And how can I have missed something so simple?
Well, okay, but the way that our brain works, our brain shortcuts things that we do regularly because it doesn't want to waste energy remembering it. And so it's actually really easy and common and not necessarily a sign of aging that we forget to do a step that we've done over and over and over, and even much more common that we can't remember if we did the step or not.
Right. Anyways, it was a bad weekend. It was start to a bad week, and part of it's like I've kind of contemplated on this podcast, how personal do I get? You know, we do talk about a lot of personal things, but I don't want to bring up, you know, like how depressing my life is sometimes. Like,
you know, I feel like it comes through.
It comes through already, just automatic. I mean, it started with like, it was my kid weekend, it was my visitation weekend, and last minute, you know, my ex-wife just canceled on me. And it wasn't like an emergency. It wasn't, you know, something that, you know, came up, because obviously I understand that kind of stuff, but it was a planned family reunion that she never mentioned once, right? No mention of it. I went scrolled through our conversation. I did searches. You know how you can search, you know, through your conversation. Mm-hmm. I did keywords. I tried to look, and I'm just like, you know what? No, she didn't say a word. And it just started to bother me and sink in and just eat away at me, because it's just one of those things that have been going on for the last 7 years, that she just has no respect. There's no father's rights. There's no like, oh, let's talk about it. Let's plan things out. Let's co-parent. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it's just, no, I'll just take the kids. I'll just keep the kids, and Tony will just have to deal with it. So that's kind of how I started the weekend. And then some other things happened. And then kind of finally, like, I don't know about you, but I hate fireworks. I don't know where it's come from. I don't know why it's there. But imagine, you know, what I had to do was climb up a tank that's got, you know, flammable liquid in it, and then I've got mortar rounds and fireworks all going up around me. It was horrible. I just felt like it was a perfect storm of events for me to make a mistake, and then I did. Happen.
Okay, so and I'm again, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to pick it. I mean, honestly, I like teasing you, but when something actually bad happens, that's not all that fun to.
Oh, gentle rib. You're no, I can handle ribbing.
But I'm just asking, like with the thing at work. I mean, is this the kind of thing where there are long-term? I mean, I know you didn't lose your job or anything, but I mean, is this the kind of thing where like your boss will bring it up again? And
they could. I mean, it just so happened that this happened right before mid-year review, and it's going to affect my bonus at the end of the year. They're going to hit it pretty hard. It actually affected everyone's bonus.
It was that big.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to hit mine harder than it's going to hit everyone's, but it was a ding to everyone. So it's like when you talk about year-end bonuses, it's actually this extremely complicated calculation, and they go through it and they explain it. I'll never understand. I'm just like, tell me the number. I don't care. Just tell me what my number is or how much I'm getting. And then, but yeah, like imagine like an entire company knowing everything, and like it's emailed, and then I had to do you know, the meeting in front of everybody, like a Teams meeting, and explain it. And it was just hard. It was a very difficult thing to go through. And then everyone just like just gritting their teeth, like, dude, why didn't you just freaking open the valve?
So do you feel like there was like a lack of empathy? Like,
oh no, they don't care. No, I mean,
so in your industry, empathy is not, because in my industry,
oh, you get mental health days.
Yeah, we, you know, if no, I said,
explain, like, I love your industry. Like, can you tell me, wasn't there something like all of a sudden all your appointments would be cleared, and your boss is like, we're going to the movies?
Well, that happened once around Christmas, which was fun. A bigger thing that happens is, like after you see somebody and you say like, I just need time to, well, only the therapist could do this. Like the bachelor's level people can't generally can't get away with this, but you say like, I just need some time to process what just happened.
Yeah.
And then you can just like sit quietly if you want to, or go to the park or take a nap or whatever.
Right.
Or you could say like, I am just really not feeling it today. I don't have it. And they're like, well, then you should just go home. So you go home because you don't have it.
No, not a single person asked me how my day was or how it happened. They're just, I went over some of those things. Like I went over, not in the big meeting, but just like with my boss, and he didn't care one little bit. No, he just cared about coming up with new procedures to prevent it from ever happening again.
Well, I mean, that does make sense. That part of it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, it does.
Do you get the new rule named after you? This is where you got to do the bullock. We call this the bullock because
we call this the bullock now. That's what it feels like. Don't do a Tony. Don't pull a Tony. I actually, the first oil company I worked for, I had procedures changed because of an incident that I did. When I broke my finger.
Oh yeah, I do remember now that you say that. Yeah.
I was in a cast for 3 months. It wasn't just broke my finger, I like shattered it. I almost lost it.
Is that all healed now?
Oh no, it's never going to heal.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a little bit of crook.
No, I sliced open my hand really, like it was like my hand had its own little mouth. And that was before I was married. So that's 25 years ago. And it's still, it's never going to be. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just do enough damage.
Yeah. No one's going to do like I went over that myself. Like I could have said, we have like these red flag moments where we could red flag the whole thing, stop work authority. And I could have just stopped and said, hey, I'm not mentally capable of opening this valve. Yeah, I could have told my boss and been like, you know what, I'm not gonna be able to handle the fireworks. I've got all this stuff going on in my mind. I just cannot focus. But it just doesn't work like that. There's only two of us. There's only two of us at this terminal. It's either him or I.
Do you think that the thing with the fireworks is almost like a PTSD?
I do. I mean, it has a lot to do with a lot of incidents I've gone through. I mean, I work in an industry that has explosions. And so with every little pop, every little, explosion, that's very attractive, by the way.
No one can see. I was scratching my back, for those of you who are unsure. I was doing the arcane movement of scratching my back. I got into some poison ivy. It has been not as bad a week as Tony had.
Oh, stop it. It's not a competition.
Well, I've lost if it is.
I could go on, tell you everything.
Well, no. But the thing about the fireworks, Florentino is a veteran and the fireworks are really bad for him.
And that's the thing is, like, I can't even get to his level. I'm not going to sit there and claim that I was been in wartime.
Well, that wasn't the point I was making. I was saying that, like, it's real, like fireworks are.
Like every time there was an explosion, I jump because you don't know if your tank is exploding.
Well, and I don't want to disparage, long-standing traditions, but the truth is that, when I was a little boy, I remember the first time we got fireworks in my town, and it was a huge deal. That was 40 years ago.
Wow.
And now fireworks are very common.
Yeah. Are you sure 40 years ago, the Chinese just invent them? Is that what happened?
No, I'm saying that at least in the little towns I lived in, they weren't.
They're switching to drone fireworks now.
What is that?
Where they set up drones in the air and they're all up there and they'll create the different light. Kind of, it looks like explosions, but it's just lights on the drones.
Well, maybe that'll be better. I don't know.
I don't know if it's better or worse. I've never seen them. I think it's the technology behind it is pretty fascinating.
Now, I did look into into what would be the procedure to use a drone to spy on my neighborhood. Not because I really, you know what I mean. You look it up and you're like, what would that be? And
there is a lot of laws to it now.
There's a lot of I want to make clear that I wasn't planning on doing it. I was just
you wanted to take your peeping Tom to a different level.
Yes, why be on the ground when you but no, I just, like I said, what can you do as far as, because I had a client who he did drones that would go hundreds and hundreds of feet.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I was just, like I kind of envisioned having a drone that went around the neighborhood, and never looked in anybody's window or anything weird like that. But just, but there's so many rules already. And because they really classify even like little drones as aircraft.
Yeah, I think they get worried about, cameras. We get worried about cameras. Like we're kind of Homeland Security and all that stuff. If we ever see anyone taking pictures, whether it's a camera, a drone, or whatever, we have to call and make a call. And sometimes the FBI will show up and investigate it.
Well, what really got me thinking about it is so I have a backyard and it has a fence. And then there's about a 10-foot section that's basically jungle.
Really?
And then another fence. And I don't know what's back there. And like I said, my initial thought was that a drone, I'd be able to fly over it. And
I bet you it's never been explored.
No, this is Indiana Jones.
Not a human foot ever
right?
set foot in that place. Have you ever been somewhere so remote where you actually start thinking, am I the first human to ever step here?
No.
You never I have.
Where?
Canada.
Well,
there's nothing up there.
The only time I've been to Canada is when we went to Niagara Falls, and then we drive around for an hour or two and come back.
Yeah, we're talking.
That's not the same.
Like we go so far up, there's nothing out there. It's fantastic. I love it.
Okay, there is one other thing, and I'm jumping to a new subject, if that's okay.
Please, it's boring.
Because I do have something.
My misery is just horrifying.
Do you remember my telling you last week or maybe a week ago or so that I would never do 23andMe?
Well, I don't know if you were emphatic about not using it because, you were worried about finding a sibling that you were not aware of.
So I guess what happened to me this
you did
week?
It. You did it.
I got a letter from my father.
No.
And he said, well, it was addressed to all four of the kids.
Was it a cease and desist letter?
No, it wasn't. It was
stop this podcast now.
He's claiming power of attorney over my computer.
By the way, your dad was the first person to ever comment on.
Yes, he did, and he's said
very supportive. He's a really
jock.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a very supportive dad. My dad also made a comment. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah, about how he hopes he run out of Tiger's gear. Yeah. Yeah, our dads are they're like Mr. Keaton from Family Ties. Okay, so I got a letter from my dad, and he said, so long ago I was with a girl and I got in a little bit of trouble and I got scared and I took off and I didn't realize that she was pregnant. And you have an older sister that you've never heard about. And I'm telling you, I got the letter on Tuesday.
It's got to be a prank.
I don't think my dad has that good enough sense of humor. I mean, that would have been brilliant if he'd listened to it. Yes. And then he had sent me this. That would be amazing. But I don't think Dad has it in him.
Okay.
So I guess they're going to meet. And then he's like, and then she wants to meet you. And I'm like, she doesn't want to meet me. She wants to meet some.
This is great.
Really handsome,
two fat dads can go on the road and have a live podcast.
Yeah, so that's how I'll meet her. We'll have her on the podcast. I can't imagine a more comfortable scenario.
It is extremely uncomfortable.
I just want to say that I clearly know my family.
Wow.
Yeah.
See,
I didn't even have to do 23andMe to get it.
And you remember in a previous podcast, I said, I've learned to trust every prediction you've ever made.
Well, the thing is, I was kind of joking about that. You know, I wasn't really thinking that there was.
By the time we conclude this podcast, I want you to come up with a prediction that we can rely on.
Okay.
All right. So you got
Only Guy with a Book will be the most popular
bull.
podcast by any members of Two Fat Dads Bar. No, I don't know. I should have done. Why have I shouldn't even give it away. I was going to do a book review. I was going to mock. Oh, you should have done that. You don't
just
don't
forget
tell me about your funny ideas.
The reason I tell you is because I'll probably never do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I just want to be proud of thinking of it.
Well, it is a very clever idea.
I'm a very lazy pranker. And I just want credit for the idea.
Yeah, I was going to credit for the idea. Charlotte and I have this thing where, like, if you offer to help somebody and then they end up not needing it, you're like, hey, I still got all the credit and I didn't have to do any work. That's awesome.
This seems like a Larry David thing.
That is our ultimate goal.
Did you ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh my gosh. There's always Larry David quotes swirling around my head. Always.
Well, my favorite episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm is one where his friend's daughter is singing in a restaurant and she's not very good. And so about halfway through, he starts clapping and he goes, oh, thank you. And he stops her. Yes. And everybody, of course, the mom and dad get really mad at him. Why would you do that? And he said, oh, I thought she was done. We needed to be done. And then a few minutes later, like an actual opera singer starts singing and he's wonderful. And they all start staring at Larry David. So he gets up and does it with the opera singer so that it doesn't look, so that he can say he wasn't picking on this little girl.
It's great. I love Curb Your Enthusiasm.
It's wonderful.
More people should watch. It's basically Seinfeld with cussing.
Yeah, and that cussing tends to make things a lot better.
That's why we're going to introduce it right now.
I am not. I'm going to tell you why. I was thinking about this, and maybe I don't know if you have something like this. Do you have something that kind of stays in the back of your mind as a reason why you don't want to be naughty? Because I'll tell you what mine is, and this sounds crazy because there's no reason why.
But yeah, go ahead.
I really don't want Diane Hughes to be disappointed with me. And that is, she is just a lady from my last ward. I like her. She's a nice lady. We never had any conflict or anything, but for whatever reason, I think to myself, I definitely
no one's going to understand that reference. No one.
Well, she's just a lady from my last ward. Everybody will get that. She was a nice lady, a little older than me.
Very nice.
Probably 15 years older than I am.
Yes.
And
she's like a little Latina grandma.
Yeah, very sweet. Married to when I moved, she was married to she was the bishop's wife. And there wasn't any. I mean, she's a nice lady, but there wasn't any reason it was her versus any of the other myriad of women.
I would have never guessed her.
But for some reason, there's just something in my mind that when I
see, usually I just go with Heavenly Father.
Well, then I'm like, okay, for instance, I've got this comic book I'm producing.
Yes.
And I was talking to the person who I'm going to use as an artist.
Yes.
And you had introduced me to one of your friends, and she had talked to me about her daughter, and I thought maybe we could have her work on a cover or something. Mm-hmm. But I was telling this girl, I said, well, this woman, obviously, sorry, that the comics I tend to enjoy are pretty NSFW. They're not safe for work. They're very
cool. I was gonna make that joke, and you just went ahead and
they're often very provocative.
Man.
but I don't want to have my name attached as I'm putting this
Ghost
together.
Rider.
No, I don't want to have that. I am this comic book that I am working on. I have it written. The comic is written. I just have to, add in the art and storyboard it and such. But it is definitely like appropriate for all audiences. And I think to myself, I can't imagine how Sister Hughes would feel if she read a comic book with, like a really dirty comic book that had my name on it. That would be terrible.
Wow.
And
that's fantastic.
We're not related. There's no reason why it should be her, but it totally is.
I really wish I could relate with you on this, but I can't.
That's okay.
It's too bizarre.
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say. I will tell you that I would rather not have that be something that I think about.
Did you ever go through, like, as you got older, you reached a certain age where you felt comfortable to tell your parent, either your dad or your mom or somebody, something that you did as a teen that you totally hid from them and was a complete shock to them?
Oh, yes. The last time we were with my dad, 3 years ago, probably pre-COVID, me and my brothers and sisters were all laughing about stuff we had done as teens.
And they had no clue.
Well, my dad would say stuff like, I can't believe you snuck out. And I'd say, you went to bed at 7 p.m. It didn't even feel like sneaking out. I would just walk out the front door,
Yeah, I'm still laughed. Bringing up stuff to my mom.
He wasn't mad or anything.
Yeah. Oh, dude. You lose track of things you want to bring up. I am so mad at Cohen right now.
So am I. Tell me why.
Well, it's so strange because I'm upset at him. I was just so mad at him, but then he's a missionary. I'm like, oh, he's a missionary. I had to be like, I can't sit here and like, can I send him like this?
No, you got to hold on to it for 2 full years.
Does he get a pass? Dude.
Yes.
What did he do? I was cleaning up after him today because he for a while there, he was kind of going in between Austin, Texas and Michigan, and doing a back and forth. And he just like, well, I'm going on my mission. And he just left just stuff. Right.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going through his stuff and packing it up. And I find 3 whole gallon jugs of his piss.
Let me tell you the process. It was piss before or after you mistook it for apple juice?
No. Okay. So that's part of the process is like, I see this full gallon jug of like Arizona tea. I think nothing of it. I was like, I don't even think I first think like, what? He doesn't drink tea. Like, what is, I don't know what this is, or like, I couldn't understand why it was in his room. And so it was already open. You didn't break the seal, so that was like second clue. And then of course I'm like right up to the nose. And I'm just like, gosh. And then of course, like my 4th or 5th or 6th thought was this boy needs to drink more water.
Yeah, I've got to tell you, Tony, I feel like you have permission to make fun of him in a letter over that.
Oh, he's going to call me tomorrow on his P-Day, and I think I'm just going to let him have it. Not bad.
I would record it. I would play it on the next podcast.
Okay.
But it's got to be funny. If you can't be like bitching at him. You've got to be funny about it.
I usually don't. I just rib him or something, or say, what were you thinking, or what, like.
Well, thank you for the present, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I tell you what, that was delicious.
I was so thirsty. I poured myself a big glass of Arizona tea, and you wouldn't believe my surprise. That boy is a slob.
Well,
no, here's the thing is like, you're going to say, well, teenage boy and this and that. And yes, I've got teenage boys. Eads is a typical teenage boy. He's more clean. He's a more organized, but he's still, he does teenage boy things. This is a different level, Steve. Okay. This is why it ticks me off. And I've just decided I'm just going to go with I'm not going to censor myself too much about certain things, because I've said before that I want a little bit of this podcast to be able to tell my story, right?
Yes.
And part of what pisses me off is that this event today just reminded me of Sarah. Like everything I had to do, cleaning up his room, everything reminded me of Sarah. And that's how I lived for 13 and a half years, right? Just constantly cleaning up like piss bottles, you know? Like,
oh, poor Sarah.
Oh, dude. I mean,
no, I'm kidding.
Am I really supposed to like not talk about it? Because
oh no, I want you to talk about Sarah at all. I want to know the whole thing.
You know the whole thing. That's why I said in the first podcast it'd be boring for me to sit there and every episode bring up something about Sarah that you already know.
I think that we can do things very organically, which was what we've done.
Well, that's what it did. That's what I went through. Honestly, it was just like reliving my marriage.
Trying to think about being Cohen.
I know why he did it.
No, he's not going to do that when he comes home from his mission.
No, I know why he did it. That's what's going to be the funny part is I know why he did it.
Well, he had to go to the bathroom.
No, so my younger brother has a very aggressive dog, and he would be upstairs and out and stuff. And this dog for some reason hates teenage boys. He was fine with me and he was fine with the younger kids, but Cohen and Eats, he would always, go after him. I think he was abused. Like I think his first owner as a puppy was a teenage boy or teenager.
Okay.
And so if that dog was upstairs, instead of going like figuring out a different way, he would just pee in a jug.
Well, okay. I don't think that as a man, any of us can pretend we haven't gone in places that were purely out of convenience.
Okay, here's the thing. Like I went through all of this, right? Because you're trying to process all of this as it's happening. As you're pouring out piss, right? You're like, what?
Or you just throw the jug away. Why pour it out?
Because I didn't want it to like burst in I just figured like if there was an accident or problem within
you're making my gag reflex go.
So my thing was like, why didn't you dispose of it? At some point you had an opportunity to dispose of it. Why did you fill up 3 whole jugs and leave them there?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's legitimate.
That's the only thing. Like, whatever, dude, like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm not going to come down on him hard. It's because he actually has a pretty good excuse. I don't know. Some people listening are probably pulling their hair out, but
I mean, no, you're right. I mean, I do think that, okay, if we're going to be frank, the real problem is that he left it for you to clean up.
Exactly. That's it. And that triggered everything else. That's why I brought it up. It triggered, me having to clean up after everybody. And you know what? I never really felt as annoyed cleaning up after my own children because they're children and, children are doing what children do.
Yeah.
I got annoyed when I had to pick up after Sarah. That was it. For some reason, there was a device, a wall there and I couldn't break through it. I couldn't even sit there and think of it as service. Like, oh, I'm giving her service and I'm helping her out and I love her. And Steve.
Well, I mean, I'm smiling because I think to myself, yeah. I mean, part of it is that Sarah is so passive.
Yes, and so is Cohen.
In her own way, she kind of doesn't really lend herself to the feeling like you're doing her service.
And there's so much to explain. Like there's so many listeners that don't understand what I'm talking about right now. Like, so like, let me give an example. You talked about gag reflex. So when I went to go do the dishes, it wasn't like, because I've explained before, like, I don't know if I explained before, but sometimes I'd work really long hours. I'm not talking about 9 hours. I'm talking about 12, 13, 14-hour days. And I didn't feel like coming home and doing the dishes. I felt like coming home and going to bed. Right. And so by the time I got to helping out with doing chores around the house, which is like a Saturday, I deal with like, so what I had asked her, like, this is the process of like, okay, dishes full of food sitting in a dish in a sink for a week.
Okay,
I mean,
but
gag. I would gag. I mean, I would literally throw up in the sink as I'm trying to clean the
right, but
dishes.
at this stage, Shitty, though, I mean,
Let me,
couple things. First, I mean, for instance, in my house now, my two oldest, my son and my nephew, insist that we use dishes when I would like to use paper plates.
yes. I
And
remember that being one of your suggestions.
And they don't keep up with dishes. I do the dishes.
Right.
But I think the other part of this is, like, now, how long have you guys been divorced?
Over 7 years now.
Okay. I mean, I guess, like the kids were, I just remember being a little kid and being like, at 8, my parents were making me do dishes.
Yes, same here.
But
so here's my point. Let me finish just a little bit of the story.
I'm sorry.
Because,
go ahead.
No, it's fine, because I think it's all perspective, because there was a point in my career where I had time daily to do kind of what you're talking about. And daily I could load the dishwasher and get things done and keep on top of things. But obviously this was like when I only had Saturdays. And here's my point. As I said, I don't mind doing this. I don't mind coming, having a Saturday, having time to do this. Can you please just rinse the dish out, just rinse the food off and just put it wherever, so I don't have to deal with rotten food after a week. Like just this one thing.
I don't know. I get what you're saying, but she's stuck at home. I'm not trying to defend anybody, but she's stuck at home with 6 kids. We just had a podcast with Charlotte where we talked about how horrible that is. But if I was gonna be critical of anything, it would be that when I was a kid, I really was expecting, and I think my parents oftentimes did way too much with me.
Way too much with you? What do you mean?
Well, like as far as like the household chores and what they expected me to do.
But you learned how to do it.
But I think that like there could be some medium, moderation in this where, but I think the kids know that all they have to do is not engage. And then mom is stuck where she's like, well, fine, I'll just do it myself. And then there's not enough time.
Right. And so this whole situation is not one little easy thing. I mean, again, we could fill up the whole podcast. We need to move on because no one cares. You're fine. This. No one cares about this. Like it's one of those things where, yeah, we had kids, and as they got older, they should have been expected to do chores, and that just never happened.
Well, I think that if we're going to walk away from we're going to walk away from a moral, it is children make everything worse.
They do.
They break everything.
I'm still feeling
more expensive. Every parent has had the thing where you take your kids and you take them out to do something, you spend a ton of money on them, you're exhausted at the end of the day, they get in the car and they start complaining because they're bored.
I really wasn't planning on talking about this today. I was actually going to talk about something similar to that, which was pets, which I think is controversial, right?
Pets?
Yes, because my sister's dog, like, I didn't know if I should talk about it or not, but I just crazy to me. She got a puppy, right? Okay. She got a husky or whatever it is. It's a husky.
Okay.
And they're kind of rambunctious, lots of energy. And I come into her house, and first of all, her house is usually, clean and nice, and I wanted to sleep at her house. Okay. As soon as I walk in, I smell pee, I smell feces, I smell animal, it's completely changed. But that's whatever. My point is the reason why I started going down this road was like, because she does her best to keep up with it. This dog, I walk into her living room. She used to have the big 75-inch TV and this whole setup. I'm like, what happened to your TV? She said the dog destroyed it. I'm like, what? Like, she tells this whole elaborate story. I can't retell it, but basically it got up on the back of the couch to look out the window, and then it made a different weird exit off the couch, and it grabbed like part of like an antenna or something that was attached to the TV. It gets caught up in its tail or leg, and it starts flipping out and pulls the whole TV down. Just the whole TV comes down and breaks. And like, why would you want to basically have a toddler in your house all the time?
Well, I mean, I get pets. If it were up to me, Tony, I'd have 30 dogs.
I know. That's why I didn't want to bring it up, because I know.
Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt my feelings that you don't want a dog.
But
I think it says that you probably
little
don't belong
small
in this
dogs
celestial
that aren't
kingdom.
going to like, destroy TVs.
Thing is, Tony, the dogs are the greatest thing that the earth has ever produced.
Oh, I said, this is how I say it, because I get asked, we talked about like all the interview questions that one will get when you first meet a new person, like a new single person.
Sure.
And one of those is pets. How do you feel about pets? And my answer every time is, I'm an animal lover, but not a pet lover. That's where I'm at.
Well, our issue is just we've got two very old dogs. They are house trained, but they're lazy, and so sometimes they make messes. Thank goodness in the bathroom. Like we've never trained them to do that, but that's the room they make a mess in. And I wish they wouldn't do that. Again, they used to not do it, but they're both old and they take medicine and
they get to do what they want at this point.
I mean,
they're like our senior citizens.
If they're outside, they'll do their business outside, but if they're inside, they might go out. So you know what I mean? Like it's, but at this stage, I feel like I'm caring for these two aged, beings who have lived a good life, and I'm taking care of them, and, I love them. And, I
think that's going to be the title of our episode, because I always struggle with titles. It's going to be Tony Hates Dogs. That's going to be very controversial. No, if I could have a dog, I would have a dog. I love French bulldogs, but then I just know it's going to eat something that I love. It's going to chew something.
My dog Charlie, who's almost 4, so we have 3 dogs. My dog is Charlie.
Charlie's the replacement.
When he first came in, I know he's Charlie dog, she's Charlie wife. It's very
I meant the dog was like a replacement of the older two. It's kind of sad, like as soon as I saw you had a new dog, I'm like, oh, this is a replacement for the ones that will eventually die.
In a way. But anyway, he is he almost never has accidents. He lets us know when he needs to go out,
and he goes to work with you, right?
And he works with me. I stagger my appointments throughout the day so that him and I can go to the park between sessions.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. But the thing is that, like I said, he is not hardly any work. But when we first got him, Charlotte will tell you that I was hating him because he was chewing up shoes and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
What they do.
I mean, that's my only point, Steve. That's it. That's the only point, is like, dogs are work.
Dogs are work.
And that's it. Like, I'm sure at a certain point,
unlike children, they make everything better.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I love dogs, and I would love to have more dogs, and you could not pay me to have more children.
So, okay. Well, this is again kind of going along with your point on marriage, that it's a crapshoot. I think getting a pet is a crapshoot. You never know what you could have the most wonderful dog in the world.
I feel like you're either going to have a good boy or you're going to have a good girl.
That's it.
Those are your, I don't know. I love animals. I love dogs.
I swear, if you spent 5 minutes with my mom's dog, you would hate dogs.
No way. If I spent 5 minutes with your mom's dog, boy or girl?
Boy.
He would love me.
He's an idiot.
Well, that wouldn't change it.
I don't know, like, you have IQ levels and you have, certain criteria with IQ levels. And at a certain point, I don't know what they call it when you get below. I think we used to call it the R word that we're not supposed to say, right? When you get below,
it's intellectually disabled.
Okay, so they would be below a certain point, they'd be intellectually disabled. This dog is 1 point above that.
We call that borderline IQ.
Okay, so he's got borderline IQ. He's an idiot.
Well, maybe he does.
I'm sure it's a thing.
I think I want to go back to Sarah's thing for a minute because I don't want
we've got very limited time, but yes.
Okay, I just don't want to make it sound like, you having this memory of this experience isn't the same as like, oh, I hate Sarah, she was a terrible wife and mother. It's simply that's simply an experience that you remembered.
Memory is tricky.
It is tricky. And I adore my wife, but I know that she could remember individual instances that if she thought about them would be very unpleasant with me. And it doesn't mean
probably the creation of this whole podcast is something that she's going to hate.
I think that when you and I are talking, she's behind me the entire time cursing you.
Don't you talk about Sarah. That's my best friend.
Well,
it's hard to talk about it. It is, especially with you guys, because it's not that like you guys don't know or don't understand or don't get it. It's like I want to tell other people that, like I was thinking about it, I don't understand why my friends, my family, they know everything I went through. But when it comes to like our church culture, I've only had 2 people ever ask me what happened in this whole time.
Well, I mean, there's certainly a taboo against asking that.
Yeah, but then I think Sarah has gotten asked a lot more than I have, and then there's some kind of automatic, like she's the victim,
Well, I'm not arguing it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying
anyways,
that
it's just I think I don't care about people not asking. What I care about is if people have made judgments or have made decisions against me, but haven't asked my side. But
those people aren't going to listen to our podcast.
Oh no. Well, I guess you're right.
I'm not trying to dog on you at all. Okay, so let's close with this. Okay. Clearly our greatest podcast ever.
I doubt it.
Definitely in the top 5. Ranked somewhere 1 to 5 was today's podcast, Tony Hates Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to, though, over the next couple of days, I'm going to be uploading this to all of the major podcast carriers. And if other people tell me about other ones, I'll do that. Now that I've done it, it's simple. But I do want to plug Lonely Guy with a Book. If you've got 5 minutes and you want to,
that's it, people. 5 minutes.
Well, and I just think that, if the first one was about The Pearl, which is by John Steinbeck. And Tony, for your sake, John Steinbeck is a writer.
What's a pearl?
And he wrote a lot of books. Well, the pearl is an actual pearl that he found.
I've never heard of this pearl. What is it?
So that's kind of a classic book. The second one I did was called An Island, which was just released a couple months ago. So I have read a lot of books. I keep a lot of notes over the books that I've read.
So many people you don't know.
Thousands. I don't know that I know more about books than anybody else, but I love talking about them. And as you can guess with being friends with Tony, it's not something I get to do very often. So Lonely Guy with a Book, just check it out. For our sake, I guess we're supposed to say you should subscribe, like, comment.
Please.
Say bad things about Tony. Generally compliment.
No, I've been trying to like
that's the preferred method, right?
I've been trying to like stir up controversy, and no one's taken the bait.
Your nickname on Reddit is Flaccid Tony. So I mean, there's something out there. By the way, I made a comment on Reddit that got 10,000 upvotes.
Get out of town.
Nope. I have never had anything like that before.
What does 10,000 uploads even mean? I'm not familiar with Reddit.
I'm sorry?
I'm not familiar with Reddit. What does 10,000 uploads mean? Is that like likes?
Yeah, that's like 10,000 likes. It's a lot.
Yeah. Your mom has gotten 10,000 likes.
Yeah, she has. But I'm in Facebook jail because I said we should burn down the Supreme Court, which is
oh, you are in jail?
Yeah, for another 15 days or something.
That's a long sentence. I've never heard of one that long.
It was a week of no commenting at all, and then 2 weeks of not being allowed to comment in any of the groups I'm in, and for a month, basically I can comment, but they won't show my comments on, like, it's apparently it's way down in everyone's feed before they get.
Wow.
And
are we going to get canceled next?
I don't know. I mean, all I said is, well, I'm just going to say, don't say it. The Supreme Court is clearly an unimpeachable source. They clearly are without guile and totally honest. The fact that they all lied to get on the Supreme Court should not influence our opinion of them.
Right.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, my brother, I will talk to you later.
All right. Good talking. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Wait, there it goes.